Hey guys, this is JP back for another video. This time we are traveling to El Nido. This is us taking the fast ferry to get to El Nido from Coron. And this fast ferry was a beast. About 15 people, or most of the ship actually, got nauseous from it. So just be forewarned, it isn't a pleasant ride. We decided to do something different here. Instead of staying in El Nido proper, El Nido is a pretty crazy, busy, touristic little town, and so we decided to go a little bit more remote. And here we are at our hotel, which is about a 40-minute tuk-tuk ride away, and this is by Nakpon Beach. This hotel is pretty small, but it's very boutique. You can see how clean and nice this area is, and we have this opening to a nice little meditation garden, and it was not a cheap hotel by El Nido standards, but it was quiet, which is what we were looking for at this point in our trip. You can see here a little walk out to the meditation yard. I think this is really made for people looking for a getaway from El Nido and the busyness and craziness of it. And you can see here it opens up into this big rice field. It's farmland all around, and so you saw the animals that were grazing all around us. Here we are walking to the beach, and you can see us kind of strolling through all of this farmland, which was a bit different from what we were accustomed to since we just left Coron, which was a little bit crazier, a little bit busier. And this is us approaching the beach. They have a little parking area prior to getting to the beach. And there are a lot of Europeans here. This is Nakpon Beach, which is supposed to be a pretty famous beach in El Nido. If you've ever been to El Nido, you'll know that the beaches in El Nido proper aren't really made to kind of just sunbathe. This is the closest beach to that El Nido proper that does allow for that, and so it's a little bit more quiet in this part of town. You can see how wide open this area is, and it's a gorgeous beach. Now, they will warn you here that there are pickpockets. There are a lot of Europeans that travel here, and a lot of foreigners, and they actually tell you that the people that pickpocket in the area are actually not the Filipinos that live here, but actually the foreigners that visit. So just be careful when you're out here. This is us taking a tuk-tuk out to El Nido proper. And you can see here that El Nido is not the most polished town. It is still part of a third world experience, in my opinion, of the Philippines, but it is quite beautiful. Here you can see a view we get from the restaurant that we were eating at, where you can just see how magnificent these views are. But like I said, it isn't the most polished place you'll see. There are hardly any sidewalks and tuk-tuks all around. So the infrastructure is still an issue in this part of the Philippines. And so again, just be ready for this. This is us now taking our private tour to the islands of El Nido, and we took this tour from Nakpon instead of El Nido proper, so there was a little bit more of a price in terms of this, considering it wasn't with all of the other tours, but we wanted to do something while we were here, and it was much more convenient for us to just leave from Nakpon. And what you'll see in El Nido here is just the natural beauty of the Philippines. You're going to see a ton of these limestone formations all around. The water is, again, very clean, very clear, and just a beautiful, beautiful place. And very similar experience to what we had in Coron. Both places just gorgeous with these natural limestone formations. But very different experiences in some ways. Like I said, this was our private tour, so it wasn't like a joiner tour where we had a bunch of other people on the ship with us. The first stop on our tour was Cadlo Lagoon, and this is where we did some kayaking. In this area, they actually filmed parts of Survivor, the TV series, in this portion of the Philippines. And just a beautiful part, but it is very rustic, if you were to put it mildly. It is still a lot of nature, a lot of the wild out here. Again, you're going to see these crystal clear waters, all of these different blues coming out of the water, and you can see basically right through it, you can see the coral that is right underneath it. So it's a very beautiful location. This is also next to Helicopter Island, which is one of those rock formations that appears to look like a helicopter, which I'll point out later in the video. But you can see here how the water kind of eroded the bases of these limestone formations. They have a little exclusive area here that we're approaching that appears to be part of a hotel. Not quite sure if they also film parts of Survivor at that location where they eliminated the players. But you can see here how clear this water is. It's just another gorgeous place. If you haven't already, please smash that like button. It really does help with the channel, so I certainly appreciate it. And this is us going to our next location here. And this is that helicopter island I was mentioning earlier. You can kind of see how it resembles a helicopter. But this is us just going over to the next stop on this tour. A couple things I want you to know about the Philippines. So first is that you don't need to know Tagalog to really appreciate the Philippines. Everybody here speaks English. And the second thing is cash is king, so carry cash with you. A lot of places in El Nido don't take credit cards, so just be aware of that. This next stop is called Hidden Beach, and here this is actually the inspiration for the show or the movie The Beach, which starred Leonardo DiCaprio. And basically this is a hidden beach that is kind of secluded. It is not such a secret anymore, where you'll find that a lot of the tourists here come to kind of see this area. Sorry about the images in terms of my video here. We're using a camera bag, and unfortunately it created this haze in some of the images that I'm taking. But you can see here it is kind of like secluded in a little cave, and there is a very narrow alley to get to the actual beach. It's a little bit rocky, so you might want to bring your water shoes for this part of the trip. Once you get to the beach, though, it is a pretty amazing sight. It's not something you would normally see in any part of the United States. These limestone formations are just gorgeous, and you do have little fish that are swimming all around you as you kind of walk through this channel. And while we were here, there were other tours that were going on that were actually having their lunch on this beach. Now, while we were on this tour, I do want to just mention to you that this was a little bit pricier in terms of the tour that we did in Coron, as this was a private tour, and so it was a little bit more expensive, a little more exclusive, but we did have the benefit of potentially going to other stops or other islands that you might not be able to see on a standardized tour. But you can see that people here were having some lunch here. This is that channel, this cave that was where they had that little area to walk to the beach itself. And you can see just how beautiful this location is. Again, the limestone was great. Generally pretty shallow in terms of trying to get there, but this is us kind of going to our next stop here in West Hidden Beach. There's that hidden beach there, that little tiny channel that gets to the area that we were just at. So pretty cool. Next stop here, we're actually going to another beach, and this next beach is a little more difficult to actually access. They call this next beach the secret beach for a reason, because you can't even see it from where you're sailing, and it's really weather dependent in terms of whether or not you can even go to this beach, because it's actually just a slight little tiny hole that you can swim through to actually get to the beach. Here's that little hole there. And again, sorry for the images. I'm using my phone to get to all of these images, and unfortunately, it was kind of hazy with regards to the bag that I was using. But you can see you have to swim to this beach by this little tiny hole, and you want to make sure that you're a decent swimmer. But I did see people being carried along by their tour guides. The beach itself was pretty small, but it was amazing. It was just so very exclusive and secluded. So we were pretty enthralled by the whole adventure aspect of this in terms of snorkeling and swimming to this little tiny little beach that you can't see from anywhere, and just exploring the beach itself. You know, the sand is powdery white, and these little limestone formations are everywhere. You can imagine how this beach looks when the tide is high and you can't even access this area because of how high the tide can sometimes get. But very cool, very neat experience for all of us. And you can see that this isn't such a secret anymore. There are a lot of different tourists in the area. There's my wife just taking it all in. So it was an enjoyable experience for the most part. Unfortunately, at this point in the tour, I was swimming back to the ship when I accidentally got my camera phone scratched with some of the coral. And so when that happened, I was no longer able to use my phone to take any more underwater images, but at least the picture cleared up, as you can see from these images. The next stop here was Star Beach, and the reason they called this Star Beach was because the snorkeling here, you do see a ton of starfish, and you also see a bunch of other amazing little fish. Let me just tell you that the snorkeling was pretty good in this area. We saw a bunch of blowfish, a bunch of starfish, like previously mentioned. There is a lot of coral in this area, but unfortunately, because my camera bag got damaged, there were no more images I could take of that underneath the water. But after we completed Star Beach, we headed on back to the Nakpan Beach just to kind of close things up. We were kind of racing because there was a storm behind us, and we didn't want to get caught in it. So it was a fun day for the most part, and we certainly enjoyed the picturesque landscape of El Nido. It was a beautiful, beautiful area, and I would highly, highly recommend it. It is certainly worth it. If you had to choose, though, between Coron and El Nido, I would tell you they're both very, very beautiful locations. And, I certainly had a preference in terms of Coron just because it was a little bit more affordable. The issues in El Nido is that it has become heavily reliant on tourism, and tourists know all about El Nido now, so there is going to be an aspect of tourism here that maybe you didn't experience as much of in terms of Coron, so that's something that you should be aware of. Prices are also slightly higher in El Nido. Again, with regards to the tourism here, it's a little bit heavier. And we did do a little bit of a different tour here. Again, we did a private tour as opposed to a regular joiner tour. And we also did decide on staying at Nakpan Beach instead of El Nido proper. So those things did add to the cost of our trip. But overall, it was just a beautiful trip regardless, and still certainly affordable. So in terms of cost, we paid $321 for lodging. So it was a little bit higher than we spent in Coron. Transportation, because we were spending a little bit more time outside of El Nido proper, it was a little bit higher in terms of this as well at $395. Food, $72, which is still pretty cheap. And in terms of our tours, it was still generally pretty affordable at $155, making a grand total of $943 and leaving us at about $236 per day in El Nido. That said, it was an amazing experience. We loved every minute of it. This is us getting back on that fast ferry, so pray for us. We are not going to have, hopefully, a little bit of a vomiting experience, but it was a fun trip. Next stop here, we're going to Cebu. the next stop in our Philippines tour. So please like and subscribe, and thanks a lot.